I'm Susan and welcome to Behind the Scenes. Today I want to show you a simple bullseye cane. I've been noticing in Discord, many of you have been saying how you want to do caning and you're getting nothing but mud and you just want to get started and you don't know where to begin. A bullseye cane is the easiest cane you can make. It's the best way to start. Now I've just made a plug and I'm just squishing out some of the air bubbles. As you can see, it's just a swirled up piece of clay and I just want to make sure there's no air bubbles in it. Now whatever you use in the core is going to be the more dominant color in your cane. When you do this, you're going to find that you make a lot of mud. It's okay. Making mud is a good thing. I don't know why everybody thinks it's terrible to have muddy clay. Muddy clay shows that you're learning, you're progressing. There's a lot of changes that happen in our colors when we reduce things. And I just wing it, play. That is my theory. Now I'm just wrapping this cane as I talk with another color of clay, because a bullseye cane is literally what it is, like the Target bullseye. You're just wrapping one color over and another. So there's no Skinner blends, there's no anything complicated. All you're doing is you're just wrapping this center core with colors. That's it. So I'm just going to slowly wrap this with colors while we talk, because I think a lot of you are getting intimidated by trying to do too much at once. And I think that could be the most discouraging thing you do to yourself and unnecessary. It's like trying to fit into size 3 jeans. Well, you aren't 12 anymore, so why try to go back to being 12? We're grown women. We have beautiful bodies. Why try to fit them into something that we're not supposed to? And it's the same with this. Just have fun with it. Now you notice I'm a little bit over on that edge. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to press it in. As long as it's close, you're not going to see this once we get this reduced. So I don't want you to stress out over it. And I've got 2 more colors. Let me trim this edge. I've got a little bit too much purple there. But you don't need to worry about trying to get something new. Learn one technique at a time, master that. It'll be a lot easier, a lot more fun than trying to do 6 things at once and overwhelming yourself. Clay is just supposed to be fun, not stressful. Now, if you're doing picture canes, that can be stressful. I've done a few, but I usually don't let anyone talk to me for days while I'm doing them. They're just too annoying. Basically, they're like putting together a puzzle. My biggest problem with the picture canes is knowing what to do with them. Once you get them done, making something with them can be more difficult than these simple canes. So that's why I love these super simple canes, because they're just designs, so they're easier to work with in jewelry and stuff. If you have a face cane, that can be a little bit more daunting, and especially when you've spent 2 days making it, and then you're afraid to mess it up. If you mess these up, it's just clay. You made mud, welcome to the club. I've made lots of mud. So now you can see I've just got this wrapped, and it's pretty thick. It's pretty chunky. I can make tons of beads with this one cane. And I'm going to show you we can break this down several ways. Now I've got another video that I show this, but it's been a really long time since I've done that video, and I think I'm better at explaining now. So I'll just trim that edge off. So now we have it all even. And it looks exactly like a bullseye. Just think of any type of a bullseye target you're going to hit. All we're going to do is start reducing. Now you can see I've got probably 2 inches of clay here. It's pretty big. And it's about 4 inches long. So it's a very large cane for most of you. And the reason I make it so large is because I break it down into other canes. I will make 3 different canes with this. And you'll say, you did that just with that bullseye? Yes. You don't need to have things super complicated. Now, complicated canes are just a mix of all these simple canes. And when you mix them all together, they look much more complicated than they actually are. So learn how to do these simple canes, and then when you go to do the complicated canes, they'll be cake. They'll be absolutely simple to do. The hardest part for me is reduction, and many of you may find that So I use my hand, the whole hand. If you like, you can use your roller, but don't roll across it, just press it if you find that easier on your hand. So instead of your fingers, just press it with the roller. Because if you roll it, it'll stretch the outside clay and not the whole piece of clay. So you want to make sure you're just pressing it in and you're stretching all of the clay, all of the colors evenly. Now I will reduce this down to being about 1 inch wide. That seems to be an easy place for me to reduce from. And I have all my clay well conditioned. That's the other thing. If you're making a bullseye cane, do not use old clay. Use clay that you've just conditioned so you've got it nice and soft and malleable. Otherwise, you'll find that your clay won't stretch. It will crack and you'll wonder what happened. What happened? The clay wasn't ready. So you don't want to just roll it and roll it. You want to make sure you're squeezing and squeezing. When you get it smaller, you can roll it a little, but you want to make sure it's just squeezing this clay smaller and smaller because reduction is half of the trick. Okay, now I'm going to cut it into 3s just to make it more manageable. So I've got 3 pieces. That just makes it way more manageable. And let's start with number 1, and we're going to do a basket weave with this. Now a basket weave is super, super simple, but you need to make this much smaller. So I will reduce this down, which will probably take me a good 10 minutes. So I'm going to skip over reducing it for 10 minutes or you'll be bored out of your mind. And notice I'm just pushing it against the table. This way I get any air pockets out, and you can see when I cut it, it was all pretty even. Here's the cut on it. You can see that the clay reduced pretty evenly, which is exactly what we want. If you see when you cut it in thirds that the clay didn't reduce evenly, you did not have your clay conditioned enough, and you're actually going to have to start over. Don't continue if your clay is not consistent throughout this bullseye. So no matter what size you cut it at, it should still be a bullseye. Okay, now I'm going to cut it in the ends. See where I have the ends here? I need to cut it where it's clean. So right there, I still have a clean bullseye. Don't throw these little ends out. You know there's lots of cool things we can do with these. And I'm going to cut it in half and then in half again so I get it into quarters. And I just eyeball it. I never worry about it being the exact size. This one I need to make a little bit longer. Now I'm going to flatten all of them. This is one of my favorite background canes because it's not too busy that when you put other canes on top of it, it looks really pretty. If you get a really busy cane and then you put a bunch of little canes on top of it, it can be too much. This happens to be one of those perfect little background canes. So now I've got a stack and I need to make a square out of it. So I'm just going to slowly push that together. And I'll use my table. And now we've got our square pretty close. We're just going to cut it in half. Now you can see I'm just going to go in the opposite direction. And you're starting to see it looks like a basket weave a little bit. You can see how that starts. Now let's reduce it again. This is when it really changes it up. So once again, using the table to reduce it. And this is the biggest mistake people make, is they try to rush reducing. Never rush this part. Take your time, watch a TV show, hang out, but don't rush it. The clay will not be your friend and it will become uneven, and that was because you were rushing it. So always take your time in reducing. It's a finger workout. And I like to pet it on the table, and that makes it just come out more even. Now we're going to reduce it let's take some of these ends off. They're getting a little schloopy. Okay, so let's take this down and cut it into 4 pieces one more time. This is the last time. So we're always cutting it in 4 pieces to create a basket weave. Now when you go to match it up, you're gonna say, oh no, it's the same sides. Flip it. Look, it's perfect match if you just flip it. That's all you have to do. So it's not complicated. If it doesn't match, see how that's the same? You don't want it the same? Just flip your piece over. That's all you have to do. It's not a big deal. It's not a puzzle. And this one, I just need to flip it. Now when I reduce this, you'll see the basket weave a lot better. We're starting out with that and we just need to reduce it a little bit more. I like my basket weave kind of small. This is really personal, depends what you're using it for, on a box, on beads, on a sculpture. It really depends what you're using for, the size of and scale of your basket weave. If you're working on miniatures, you'll want it smaller. If you're working on a box or something, you may want it larger. Now, if you didn't reduce this, you could have made just a strip that was just the little lines of this basket weave. But you can see how you get a pattern forming that will fit right together. So if you wanted to create a veneer with this, that use this as a background on earrings, a bracelet, anything, this is a really simple cane. A beautiful background too, because it gives you such a subtle little texture. Your canes will look really pretty on top of this. This one, we're going to cut the end off a little bit just because when it's like that, it's not going to make you a good cane anyway. And let's cut this one in half. Now I'm just going to pinch this up. So you can see I have a U. I'm going to take the other side, pinch that up, and put them together. So now you can see I've got the 2 U's. Let's cut them in thirds. Now you can see I've got 6 U's. And let's reduce that. I always find the table easier to reduce than in my hands. Now I'm going to cut this one in half. You can see right there the whole design I have, or you can put it together like that, or you can keep going with it into a flower petal. It's a beautiful flower petal also. So many things you could do with this design. It's almost hard to believe. I can see 3 different patterns right here that I could make. I could create that as a cane. I could create this as a cane, or I could just use it like that as a flower petal and pinch this one end off. But what I'm going to do is make a leaf with this. Now I'm going to take these 2 pieces and I'm just going to put a little piece of white in the middle. And when I say little, I mean real little. We don't need much. So this is run on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, and then this is on a number 3 setting. Now, does it matter if one is a little thicker or thinner? Not really. With the blue on both sides. So make a little sandwich out of it. And there we have a sandwich with the blue and the white. Now I'm going to pinch the heck out of it on one end. This end I'm just squeezing a little bit, but this end I'm squeezing the heck out of it. So when I cut it, you can see better. I've got this tapered end. And that's what I want to put in the middle here. So I'm going to put the darker colors that are on the inside, and you could do it either way. There's no rules here. This is more about just creating. And I'm going to put these 2 halves together and just push them real hard. They'll start to form up around themselves. I want to make a leaf shape. So you can see how it's starting to come together. It's almost like a monstera leaf. Just using your Bullseye cane, you can create a beautiful leaf. You could also use this as a petal. There's so much you can do with this just Bullseye cane alone. It's addictive. The blue going down the side, so I'm going to add some of this blue. Now I've got a piece of that same blue on a number 4, and I'm just going to roll it around this edge here. Even though it's already got the blue on it, it's pretty thin. This will just redefine it. And now I'll just continue to reduce this. And the way I like to reduce this is just use the table. So I press it against the table on each end. So I have that point against the table. That helps to see him maybe at that angle. And I'm pushing down at the base towards the point, and then pushing as I flip it over. And it will slowly just start to lengthen out. Just be patient with it. And of course you can always add some gold leaf, some silver leaf, whatever you like to it as you're reducing. And there you can see my leaves, and they're going in different directions, but you can straighten that out pretty easy. I actually like them in the different directions, kind of a cool frame, but I still would reduce these a lot further. I just wanted to show you how you get that beautiful leaf just using a bullseye cane. Now we still have this piece left. There's so much you can do to manipulate a cane that you can make it so many different ways. You know what, let's use half of this. So I'm just going to reduce half of this. Now I'm just forming this into a teardroppy triangle shape. It can be flat, it can be triangle, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to be reducing it quite a bit either way. And I'm just going to stack those little teardrops together and give them a little pinch and reduce them into a triangle. And because I can, I'm going to add a little bit of leaf around this, little silver leaf. I don't normally use silver leaf on camera because when it gets small, it just looks like a glimmer, almost like a lot of people complain that there's a spot in the camera, and it's the silver leaf. But the silver will go prettier with this color than the gold. And to reduce my triangle, once again, I'm just grabbing it from the top and pinching it, and then just turning it. So this is the bottom. So just push it into the table, let the table do the work for you. And I'm holding and just pressing on the clay. It will gently stretch it. Don't pull, just press. Now I like to reduce this until it's a lot smaller, but you can see you get this beautiful little accent cane that you can just put between anything. Or you can put 4 of them together and make a little, whole nother cane. So here, I'll take one of these and leave it small, and I'll take the other one and I'll make 4 of them together so you can see what that looks like. So I'll cut it in half and half again. When you slowly push them together, they will come into this perfect little square, or you can push them all together and make it a hexagon if you want to add more. Easiest way to match this up, I didn't do. Just press down on the point a little and they will match in with each other a whole lot better. You can see how much I've gotten just from this little bit of cane here, and I still have this big hunk left. So we'll do something with this one, and let's cut this one in half again. And now I'm just going to pinch it up, leaving that white in the middle, so it gives you an idea better. So I'm just going to reduce this a tiny bit, just so that I have more pieces. It's still a little stubby. And I'll make this one match up. So I'm going to reduce this Now I may save that one. I'm going to take this one, cut the ends off, so there's a little bit more yuck on the end of that. Cut it to where it's clean, so you can see a clean cane at the end there. So both ends are nice and clean, they match up. Now I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut it in thirds. And now I'm going to go back and forth. And you can see how you can create an edging with this. So you could use this just at the edge of another cane. You could edge a butterfly with it. You could edge anything. And when you push this together, it'll squish down very differently. And there's another design. Now you can use this to outline a box, make ribbons, use this in the back of a background, all different things. So there's lots of different things you can create all just using this same cane. Now I have this last piece left that we pinched up. Remember, it was just half of the cane. And let's see what we can do with this. I always kick the edges off so you can see what I'm doing with it. Normally when I'm working alone, I don't kick the edges off. Well, this one is kind of obvious. This one creates a little flower because all we have to do then is cut it in half. And could have put another color in the middle there, but sometimes I just like the starburst. Now there we go. So all that came from one cane. So you can imagine if you made 5 different color mixes of these, how you could build your cane stash just using Bullseyes. So you don't really need to know how to do the Skinner blends. This other stacked, this is just the most basic of basic, and look at how much you can create. It's one of my favorite canes because it gives you so much with doing so little. Actually, it's just more how you manipulate and reduce the clay that gives you so many different ideas and designs. And of course, you can always use it as a small bullseye. Like here's one in another color. You can see it's real tiny. That would have been really pretty in the middle of this flower. But just to give you an idea of how you can mix them up and assort them. Now, of course, I've done them in other colors. Let me show you. Now this is exactly this mix. So as much as you would look at this and say, oh, the yellow, this is contrasting colors. So you've got complementary colors. You've got the orange and the purple, which are complete complements, opposite on the color wheel. Look at how gorgeous and pumpkin-y they come out together. Adding the pink and the orange to it, they just soften up when you reduce them. So you get this big, beautiful leaf, you get the small leaves, you get the basket weave, and just a straight up little cane. So there's lots of things you can get out of this. It's a yellow, an orange, a pink, and a purple. That's all I use there. No Skinner blends, no nothing. Start with these canes. These are the canes that are the easiest and will always give you success right from the get-go. The Skinner blends are a little bit trickier. Once you master these, the Skinner blends will be no problem. Here's a yellow cane with green, peacock pearl, and some deeper green around it. I added a little black to make that green a little bit deeper, and look at how gorgeous these are once you reduce them. Now this is with the hexagon, how I got that burst. I just added, I think, 8 of them together to get them all around like that. The 6 gave me the other smaller, more flowery looking one. This one looks more like a burst. And then the leaves, of course. And I've just got the straight up bullseye cane, just smaller. Just the straight up bullseye cane will give you lots of great accents. So there's so much you can do with these canes. It will be a little bit overwhelming. That's why I try to say just start with one technique and master it. It'll make it a lot easier and less intimidating when you try to do this cane, the Skinner blend canes, the complex canes, and you jump around. You're mastering nothing and you're frustrating yourself. If you master this technique, trust me, you'll move on to the Skinner and that will be a cakewalk. And this is a really fun, easy cane that you really shouldn't have anything that you can't use out of it, because it's just such an easy cane that it's pretty hard to mess it up. So I hope I gave you lots of ideas and inspiration, and thanks for watching.